It's safe to say that the Nintendo Switch was one of the biggest come-ups for Nintendo ever, especially after the lows of the Wii U, which as a Wii U owner, I love that console, and it sucks that it went through what it went through, but clearly the Nintendo Switch came in and completely saved the day for Nintendo. With great games, an amazing, well-selling console, Nintendo's on top of the world right now. But I can't lie when I say this year has told us a lot about what's going on with Nintendo, in terms of not telling us anything, meaning that we know Nintendo seems to be going through a transition period, and this is something that we've talked about before, where it seems like Nintendo is ending and winding down on their Nintendo Switch content, giving us nothing but ports, remakes, and remasters, and just a little bit of information here and there, and even skipping Nintendo Directs. This is nothing new. We've seen them do this before when there's nothing to really announce and they're gearing up for something big, but after going throughout the entirety of this year and even the holiday season with not a single announcement from Nintendo, not even at the Game Awards, which we kind of figured that would happen, it is starting to have people wonder what's going on. Now, obviously, I think a lot of us have already came to that conclusion that something was probably going to happen in January or February regardless, because Nintendo did state by the end of the fiscal year, which is March 31st of 2025. But that only means they have a couple of months left until they have to announce the thing. But things have been happening, and of course, everything's just rumors right now, but apparently there's been leaks of the Switch 2, and we pretty much have gotten renders and models and even accessory models from other companies that are working directly with Nintendo on this thing. I think it's safe to say we know exactly what this is going to look like. It seems to be the Nintendo Switch, and just more powerful with a couple of new additions. And for a lot of people, that's all we really wanted. The Switch has been an amazing console, and one of the only issues, at least for me, has always been performance. Not as much on the graphical side, I don't really need that from Nintendo, but mostly just the frame rate, running at 30 frames or, bouncing frames up and down, and it's just having a stable frame rate with good graphics is really all we wanted for Nintendo Switch 2, and that could literally just be what we're getting. But is that enough for the general consumer? For instance, this is the Nintendo Switch OLED, and this is apparently what the Switch 2 is going to be. This is like the 6th or 7th model that some source online has claimed, and they all look the same. They all kind of go off of this design, and even the patents that Nintendo has put out kind of went off of this design as well. And I don't personally care too much. As long as it's just a better Switch, I'm fine. And as a Nintendo fanboy, I think this console could have been anything and I'm fine. I'm just really about the games, and I do think games matter. But for a lot of casual consumers, if this is really what the Switch 2 is going to look like, I could see a lot of people maybe being a little turned off by this. I've already seen some people online already saying that the Switch 2 isn't going to be anything that exciting, and that they're already losing hype over the console even though Nintendo themselves haven't announced it, just because these leaks keep coming out. There's a big fear right now for a lot of people that this next console is just going to be too safe. And I think the problem with this is just how long we've been waiting to hear about this. If this console was announced like a year ago or even at the beginning of this year, it would have been a completely different story. Or shoot, even if it was announced sometime this year, it would have been a different story. But the fact that Nintendo is making us wait 8 years, and the fact that Nintendo has been so silent and so quiet about this thing, if it does turn out just to be a more powerful Switch with not a lot of differences, at least when you're looking at the thing, I feel like a lot of people might not care, especially people buying Nintendo Switches this holiday season. They might say, do I really need this thing? We also have some new information on the operating system that just recently come out, and it's also starting to worry some people, where it states Nintendo has updated the intellectual property warnings in the Switch OS to mention Nintendo Switch 2 game cards. Switch 2 will use the same base OS, which is the operating system. Now, this isn't inherently bad. They don't need to reinvent the wheel and have a new operating system for things to look different. So at least if the UI and home screen and stuff have new designs and, fix that eShop, I think it doesn't really matter. But once again, the problem isn't us as hardcore Nintendo fans. I mean, look at us Wii U owners. The ones that own the Wii U are hardcore Nintendo fans, let's face it. So the question is this going to be another Wii U situation? I really hope not. But when you look at everything on the paper, it doesn't look good for people that are just casual gamers right now. This is just another Switch. The rumors are even saying that it might be called Switch 2. which is very similar to the Wii U. Thankfully, it just straight up says Switch 2, where the Wii U should have just been the Wii 2 at that point. So that definitely does help its case. But also with the rumors coming out and the apparent leaks showing that the Switch 2 looks exactly like the current Nintendo Switch, just a little bit bigger with some extra buttons. It's literally the same console, and it running on the same operating system. It's starting to really worry people. Now remember, once again, this is all just stuff that we've been hearing from other sources, and yes, some of this does have a lot of credibility. Some of these renders and mock-ups that we're seeing are coming from accessory companies that are working directly with Nintendo, and they are kind of giving some of this information out, which means that they probably do have documents on Switch 2 to make accessories for the console before it drops. So I would be willing to bet that the design of Switch 2 is either going to be exactly like what we've been seeing or very, very close. Now, I don't want to get into a long drug out topic about Switch 2 failing, because that's going to be a big discussion, and that's something that I might save for a separate video and talk about, what does Nintendo need to do to make sure that Switch 2 doesn't fail. But the one thing I'll touch on right now is that games are so important. And I know a lot of people blame the Wii U on the hardware side of things, the marketing and stuff, and what it actually was, and the peripherals with obviously the Wii U gamepad and stuff just was weird. But I think a lot of it also boiled down to games, because the launch year games for the Wii U were very, very lackluster. I mean, for a while, I remember the only games I had were New Super Mario Bros. U, there was Zombie U, Game & Wario, you know what I mean? There was just nothing to really sink your teeth in, and we had to wait a while for things like Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, 3D World, and just some other games like Splatoon. So once again, it boils down to that first year. The Switch's first year was so magnificent. 3D Mario, Open World 3D Zelda, sequel to Splatoon, ARMS, a brand new IP, Mario Rabbids, a brand new RPG collaboration, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I mean, Nintendo was firing on all cylinders. So I don't think it matters all too much what the console looks like, even if it looks exactly the same, as long as Nintendo markets that, hey, you can only play these new Switch 2 games on this Switch 2. We know it's going to be backwards compatible, which is great with Switch 1, but they need to make sure that they clarify, you can't play these new games coming out unless you have a Switch 2. And before I see a lot of comments saying that the general public's not watching these leaks, and most people aren't seeing that, that's just us, the hardcore Nintendo fans. No, not necessarily. Nintendo Switch 2 has been trending worldwide on Twitter for the last 3 months. I have friends who genuinely don't even like Nintendo and don't even own Nintendo consoles, literally messaging me talking about, what is this Switch 2 thing, and why does it look exactly like Switch 1? Hasn't it been 8 years of Switch 1? Like, I already see casual gamers picking up on these leaks, and that's not good. As Nintendo, you want to get this thing out before those leaks start popping up. And it's just something that I really thought that they were going to jump in the gun and get ahead of, like back in September when all those leaks were dropping out originally. And since then, there's just been leaks every single week to every single month. Whether it be companies with upcoming games kind of teasing the next console, or companies that are making accessories for Switch 2 literally showing off entire models of the console. It's just been a mess, and honestly, this transition, it might be good in terms of games still releasing, keeping us busy, even though they're incredibly smaller games like remakes, remasters, and ports, but still, it's not a great transition to me personally when you just constantly are going radio silent about anything regarding your next console. You're not telling investors about it, you're not telling the public about it, you're not announcing any huge AAA games in the future, you skipped 2 Nintendo Directs. It's not looking the greatest in my opinion. And apparently the rumors are Nintendo still has a couple of Switch 1 games that they want to show off. Like there was a rumor that Kirby Planet Robobot is getting some type of HD remaster or remake, whatever it's going to be. But still, it's just like, man, does that mean we're going to have to go through another half a year of just ports, remakes, and remasters as we wait patiently for Switch 2? Well, let me end this on a good note. Nintendo needs to come out in January or February. I think it's going to happen in February, but personally, if I'm Nintendo, as soon as we jump into the new year, I'm talking the first couple of weeks of January, I want to jump to the gun on this thing and immediately get out information on Switch 2. I want to, kind of put away any rumors, any false leaks that's been out there about my console, and I want to show people what this thing can do. Show people why you want this console. If you already own a Switch, why you would want to get a Switch 2. Show off some magnificent games and really just start getting the buzz going about your console. Because man, the longer you wait, the more companies are going to get impatient and pump things out about it. I am definitely trusting the process because there's no reason not to. With Nintendo having one of the most successful generations of gaming ever, there's no reason to worry right now. Until we start seeing like Nintendo doesn't have games for this new console, or this new console just literally does nothing new at all, then we can start to worry. But let's just wait a little while longer. Let's give Nintendo, their time frame like they said they would until the end of the fiscal year, and let's see what happens. I'm sure things, I hope things, I'm not going to even say sure anymore. I hope things are going to start shaking here very soon at the beginning of next year. But based on these leaks so far, Nintendo Switch 2 is looking pretty much exactly what it looks like. A more powerful version of Nintendo Switch, and looks very, very similar to the original version. But let me know in the comments down below what you think about this. Do you care that the Switch 2 looks a lot like Switch 1? Do you hope that these rumors and leaks are wrong and they look actually extremely different? Do you just want better games? Just kind of let me know what you're thinking about this down below. And are you finally hitting that level of impatience? I mean, I think I've been there for a while now. But thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out. And like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.